Welcome everyone to a very special Kickstarter edition of DMs After Dark. I'm here with Troy. Say hello, Troy.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And I am Christian. And tonight we're going to play not all of the game, but part of a game of Dawn of the Orcs, which is a great game that's coming out on Kickstarter pretty soon. And it is brought to us by Lime and Plasmaphage. And they were kind enough to reach out to us and send us a copy pre-Kickstarter. So if you're listening to this now, the Kickstarter is live, but we had it a little bit earlier because we're cool. But
Perks of being professionals and all.
Yeah, super professional. It's like one of the only perks of being a professional gamer. Dawn of the Orcs is a really cool game. I'm just going to read the back for you. Forge your orcs amidst chaos and carnage. You are sages, wizards, scholars, geniuses, charlatans, and assorted other meddlers. Your nation faces destruction at the hands of an overwhelming foe. To save your homeland, you have to put your occult learning, secret arts, and esoteric skills to use to build an army of new soldiers who you call the Orcs. Each battle of the war buys you time to improve and modify your Orcs. Can you repel the invaders with a combination of sorcery and strategy? What will you have created when the fighting is over? And Dawn of the Orcs is a GM-less dark fantasy game for 1 to 8 players. Players take the role of a powerful council of sages, creating the first Orcs to win a war of survival. It includes both collaborative world building and strategic decision making. So it's pretty cool. And the copy that I have, the physical copy, is printed entirely on recycled paper. It's really a nice looking game. It's a really cool game. Definitely something that you could put on the shelf and you have those nights where people just can't come to the game for whatever reason.
Right.
And maybe you don't feel like advancing the story and you just need something to grab. These games are really awesome for that. They're also awesome for games when maybe you're in between some heavy sessions of whatever game you're playing. You don't really necessarily feel like advancing the plot, but everybody still wants to hang out. We have had so much fun with one shots. If you check out our stuff, This is another prime example of something you can have a lot of fun with.
For sure. It sounds like it's intended to be fairly short too, like it would make a good one shot. I could see you drawing it out over a little bit of a longer period, depending on how much you want to role play, the various aspects. But at least from my understanding of reading through it, it definitely does read more as a collaborative world building experience.
Yes.
I like how they said that with strategic decision making, because you build on your orcs. You basically add to their various traits and feats. You can modify them with special abilities, like they can see in the dark or they could fly, all that other stuff. So it's really neat, and it'll make a lot more sense as we start playing. But we aren't going to be playing the whole thing though, right? We're just going to be playing through about half of it or so. Because we don't want to spoil the ending for everybody. But number 2, we want to be able to play enough where people get an idea of kind of how it works and how to play. So
correct. So this is just to wet your whistle, not to see us play the whole thing because just because we play it one way doesn't mean it's the right way to play it. I think that's always an important thing to say to everyone is honestly, if you're having fun at the table, you're playing the game right. And just because us or anybody else who might be watching out there who streams or does podcasts of games, everybody has their own style. They're all right as long as they're having fun. That's all.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
They never break character. They never make any jokes. We are the exact opposite of that. It all works. It's fun. So I love these games. I just say one last thing about this before we start, and I'll let you make your joke too because you're smiling. Go ahead.
Nope. It's okay. I'm going to hold on to it.
Okay. I've always thought there are a couple games like this out where they're world building games, and I've always thought it would be really cool to do something where, prior to your session 0, even right, you do a series of these games as one shots, and everybody builds the world together. Plus, there are games where you play gods, and the gods create.
Oh, and you're saying hodgepodge.
Right, but yeah, the outcome of this game could if you have a homebrew fantasy world, the outcome of the game could be how the orcs can be in your world, right? That's the orcs, and you can make that part of your world. I think that's really cool. That's another alternative use.
That would be super cool.
Yeah.
One other thing, Christian, I wanted to point out too about Dawn of the Orcs is in the forward, Lime and was it Phasmophage? Plasmaphage.
Yeah.
Plasmaphage. They do a good job of just kind of giving a beware, a warning. Basically, this tale is one of war and suffering and essentially it says if you're looking for a happy, joyous game, maybe look elsewhere. This game definitely has some elements of, I could see, like savagery, torture,
Absolutely.
suffering, war,
Yeah.
death, that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So for sure, just a good little warning there. But
If you're listening to this, you're probably interested in the game, so you probably are okay with that. But either way, take care of yourself.
yeah. And it is GM-less, as you mentioned. It does suggest to have one player be the chronicler, which is basically the player that is writing stuff down, keeping track of the attribute bonuses that you get throughout and that kind of stuff. But
I'll
that's
do
kind of
that.
something to do.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
do that for tonight. So I have
Sounds
I have
good.
some paper here. The game itself has all sorts of sheets that you can use to do that, which make it really handy. So that's pretty cool.
Also, the artwork
Okay.
in here is really, really neat. I love the
It's
black and
good.
gray,
Yeah,
and
it's like
beautiful.
like it reminds me a lot of like older black and white comics.
Yeah.
Like
It
like
looks
Ninja
really good.
Turtles.
I love the
Honestly, it
style.
reminds me a lot of, if anyone's ever seen like very early like Ninja Turtle comics. They were in black and white, and that's what this style looks like. It's really cool, and also very early just role playing game books in general, like early D&D and early RuneQuest or whatever, had this kind of black and white line art
Yeah.
style. That
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. Brings back good memories. So all right, let's get started.
Okay.
So I'll read. We'll switch off the chapter forward. So I'll read the first one. You read the second one. You want to do that?
Yeah,
Way?
that works for me.
And just for reference to everyone who's listening at home, we are going to play through to chapter 4. So we're not going to go all the way through. There's let me see how many chapters there are. There are 8, like kind of canon, I guess you would call them, chapters, and another 4 bonus chapters of things you can add into play if you wanted to extend your game or just kind of insert them in any way, shape, or form. So that's 12 chapters total. We're going to be doing half of the regular core game. The way you play, we have a D6 and a D10, which we're going to use to resolve some things. When we start, we can start with who. Who are you? I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying just the D6, the D10, and some pen and paper is all you need.
And that's it. That is it. And we'll work through the rest of it as we go. So, Chapter 1, Skies of Smoke and Flame. The kingdom of Lania has lived in peace for 1,000 years. The people of Lania do not know the ways of war and have no stomach for violence. The conquering armies of the Styrobites now rampage across Lania with none to stop them, putting all to the sword and the torch. You are the council of sages that have been assembled to create, through ancient sorcery and reckless science, soldiers able to stand against the Styrobites. Inspired by myths of a spirit called Orcus who killed the wicked, you have chosen to name your creation Orcs. And now we go to who are you? So each sage should let the chronicler know their name, their expertise, and why they were asked to join the council. We can invent all those details if you want, but if we need inspiration, we have a cool 3D10 table, which I'm totally going to roll on.
100%. I always love incorporating the game mechanics. Somebody spent time putting those there, so let's use them.
Exactly.
All right, Christian, why don't you roll for your council member, your sage first?
I did. So I rolled a 6, and a 4. So I am a self-appointed. Oh boy, this is a hard word. Thaumaturge. I hope I'm saying that word right.
Thaumaturge.
These are big words. Self-appointed thaumaturge of the Grand Academy. That's who I am.
You being all educated, self-appointed, and shit.
Self-educated.
Okay. Let's see what I am here. I got 7, 4, and 4. So I am the new alchemist of the Grand Academy. So we are from the same academy.
All right, that's cool.
We got a newbie and a guy that's self-appointed. What an academy we are.
So I got a cool idea. Hold on a minute. Let me just write this down. So we'll come up with names in a minute, but since I'm self-appointed and you like to make fun of me for being old, maybe we'll just say like I'm literally like the founder of the Grand Academy. That's why I'm self-appointed, and I'm just so ancient and dusty that I've been there forever.
You were like you were grandfathered in before formal education existed.
Correct.
I love it. That's
I invented it. I'm like the Aristotle, only I'm lich.
And I just got my FAFSA back and I got accepted first
New
first
alchemist.
term
You're like,
student here.
and I'm just like, come on, kid, you got to pay off your loans. Come with us.
Let me see what you can whip up with that fucking magical mushrooms.
One of the new names, I'm gonna do a name. I'm gonna be Adolphus.
Is there a name table
ADLP.
too, or no? I
There
don't
isn't.
see
I just
one.
made that up.
No.
Adolphus. Yeah, Adolphus, the
Hmm.
self-appointed thaumaturge of the Grand Academy.
And I will be. I'm gonna say the name I go by is Maestro.
Maestro. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
So now that's who we are. Obviously, we've been asked to join the council because we're on the Grand Academy. The Grand Academy is the biggest academy in Lania, and they need help. They need help because war is afoot, and we need to help them with our magic, my ancient magic, in your newfangled alchemy. So, lastly, we also have something called a secret motivation, and that one we roll and we do not tell. But I think for sake of
Yeah, for the viewers, we can
demonstrating
say.
play, yeah, we'll say. So I'm gonna. You roll 1d6, and you can pick two, but I'm always a fan of rolling when these things are in the tables because I know how hard they are to come up with for people. So I rolled a 3, and so that is my motivation is to protect my people at all costs.
And I rolled a 1, so my motivation is prove my field of study is the most valuable.
Oh, that's perfect. All right.
Which alchemy, right? Like I'm just trying to turn shit into gold over here. Like this will pay off. This is the proverbial Dogecoin of the Dark Ages.
That works really well into maybe because I'm like the self-appointed thaumaturge who's been around forever. You're the new alchemist. Maybe there's maybe you're maybe I'm kind of like whatever you come, but nobody's really expecting
Yeah, I
you
got
to
to
do
prove
anything.
myself, bro.
Yeah, maybe
Got to prove myself.
alchemy is like the new thing, and you're like the tech bro who's got to
yes,
prove that it works.
yes, I love it. So the next thing then after we pick our motivation, it goes over disagreements. So basically if there is a decision in game that can't be made in a reasonable amount of time, the council can vote on it. The narrator for each chapter breaks ties. So in this particular instance, there's 2 people playing. So I guess whoever is narrating that chapter, if we adamantly disagree on something, I'm sure we like to fail forward. So I'm sure we'll make it work for the best of the story. The last thing in chapter 1 is betrayal. So this is a really cool part. I like this, and it would be especially wonderful if your motives are unknown to the rest of the players. So it says, if they so choose, each sage can secretly betray the council once per game. So after everybody votes and declares, hey, we're going to go ahead and go this route and do this for this particular scenario, one of the players can say, hey, actually, no. And then they can betray and basically get, my understanding is they get creative rights to the whatever they want the outcome to be instead of what it was voted on. It's kind of a coup.
Great. Yeah, it's which is a great mechanic for this sort of story that it's wanting to tell. So I love it.
I agree. I actually think that specific thing adds a really nice dynamic to the kind of, I don't want to say crunchy, but mechanical part of the world building behind this. Everything is calculated, right? So somebody coming along and just saying, hey, fucking trump card, boom, no, that could throw a wrench in shit pretty good. So
absolutely. And when you have, if you have a bunch of people and they all have some of these motivations are great, so chaos, discord, and havoc, wreak terrible vengeance for all I have suffered. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them are just push the boundaries of what magic and learning are capable of. They're just, just typical of hubris. All those things are great for setting up this sort of tragic history of the orcs where they were created and they became this, they were meant to be a great thing, but then they turned into this weapon that we couldn't control, and now they're the orcs that we all know and love. So yeah, that's good stuff. So chapter 2 is creation. Why don't we move on there and start making our orcs?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read some of this here. So for chapter 2 creation, it says, when orcs were first created by the council, they were nothing more than this people or this being made for war and capable of killing. The council, however, has come up with a way to create them and perhaps a way to control them. So this is where we first begin with the mechanics of kind of building our orcs. So it says orcs start with these scores. There's essentially 4 different scores. There's numbers, which represents how proliferate they are, like how many there are. Loyalty, self-explanatory. Brute, which is like their physicality and strength. And then there's clever, which is their cleverness, their cunning, right? A lot of times orcs are portrayed as these big mindless like oafs, but other times they're portrayed as like these very cunning like night stalkers and kind of stuff. So to start, all of those stats are 0. So you start from a clean slate, the old tabula rasa. Next, we choose one. So if we decide that the orcs are forged from sorcery and raw materials, the orcs gain +1 numbers, and we have to discuss from where are they made. If any Lanian can be turned into an orc through a ritual, they get +1 loyalty. It asks how then is the ritual done. And then lastly, if only some Lanians can be turned into orcs, orcs gain +1 loyalty, +1 brute, and -1 numbers. What sort of Lanians can become orcs?
Wow.
I think, personally, if my goal is alchemy and to prove that it is the most important and valuable field of study, I think this is maybe this is what I'm putting all my eggs in one basket into. So perhaps together, the council forged them from raw materials and from sorcery, a byproduct of alchemy, maybe.
I agree with that because I was also thinking like sorcery and raw materials are kind of like the thing we came up with for our characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense. Is that we would just like, my sorcery, your alchemy, we're putting it together, we're making these orcs whole from something. Interesting though, I do want to think of the implications of the other ones, man.
Yeah. Right?
Like you forcing people to become these war machines, or what if it's only a certain person? You rounding those people up and like
yeah, dude,
just having like press gangs to make them into them. That's like some cool stuff. But
yeah,
dude,
I agree with you. Some like ethno genocides, shit like that. Like, yeah, it could get as dark as you want it to get for sure.
Very, very dark. Yeah. So here we go. So where we're going with the first one though. So that gives us our orcs +1 numbers.
And it says from what are they made, Christian? So
so what do we think?
I like the idea of something intangible being combined with something that's physical. So I like the idea of orcs being created from either a memory or an emotion plus something else. So maybe
anger.
Yeah, like hatred, right? You take or maybe the council came to this people that was like in despair, like they had nothing and were afraid. Maybe they're made from fear, and this is something that's made with fear and something. What kind of
it doesn't have to be just one. It could be like the emotions of war, which would be like fear and hatred and anger and kind of all desperation, like all those things combined. And what like the physical thing, interestingly, is like I almost want them to be made out of like not necessarily like I'm thinking of like it's kind of like cliche, but you think of like the scenes from Lord of the Rings where like the orcs are being born in the pits, right?
That is a very powerful scene. Like, what if instead of the pits of mud, they were born from like the ravages of like villages or communities that were like ransacked from war. So like from the ashes of these crumbling villages and plague and everything, fucking boom.
Like the slaughtered villages, people killed by the styrobites, like the victims of war.
Yeah.
And I like that. And anger. Yeah. Okay. So that's what it is. So that's therefore forged.
Almost like a revenant, right? Like the energy of those that were killed in this terrible condition, mixed with the physical, like the structures, right? They're made from earth and burnt, buildings and shit like that. Maybe from the bodies of slain, like stuff like that.
Just all that stuff kind of just molded together. Yeah,
hell yeah,
I love
dude.
it. Into a
that
clay.
Sounds awesome.
That is exactly what they're made out of. I love it.
Okay. Right. So we got that done. So the next thing we have to choose one here. So it says if the orcs are bound to a supernatural obedience to an item, record the nature of the item and how it is kept. Orcs gain +3 loyalty unless the item falls into the wrong hands. This is some classic token right here, right? Bound to the ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second option is if they're bound in supernatural loyalty to a person, record that person. They gain +2 loyalty unless that person should die without heirs. And if the orcs are loyal to nothing, they gain +1 brute, clever, or numbers. What are you thinking?
I think the one that makes the most sense is the first one.
Okay.
Right? Binding them to something. And I do like the idea of it being an actual something. Like a ring, right? Like the ring.
Let me think here. I agree. I like that idea. Initially, I was thinking maybe the last one, that where they're loyal to nothing. But I actually think if they're loyal to something, it's a way to kind of give back a piece of human, like an element of humanity, to these creatures that were created from complete destruction and despair, right, and hatred. So it makes them a little bit more relatable if we make it the first one. What item do we want them to be bound to, though?
Well, I have an idea that I'm kicking around a little bit. So maybe like a banner or some sort of relic or artifact from the first city that was burned by the Styrobites.
I like that. Yes. I like a banner. I think the banner is really good.
So we'll just call it the Banner of Lania for now. That it is like, it's just something that whoever bears that's their like battle standard. And they rally around that. That's what inspires them, and they're magically bound to it.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So for this the next step, it says if any score reaches 4 in this chapter, list one new custom the orcs have begun that sets them apart from Lanians. We have not gotten that far because they have +1 for numbers and +3 for loyalty. Next thing is warps. So basically, in each of the following chapters, a great battle will be fought. In the aftermath, the council will have at least 5 ideas for ways to change or improve the orcs, called warps. So these are special modifications that you can make to the orcs at the end of each chapter. For game purposes, they don't have time to pick all 5. They should decide which ones they will choose and how they go about making that change. They would never choose fewer warps than they are allowed. Obviously, that would be detrimental to the whole purpose of creating these war machine people. And I think at the end of each chapter, it details how many warps you get to choose from, and it's based on, I think, the success or failure in that chapter.
Warps are outlined by a chapter.
Okay, the next piece here, this is the last piece of chapter 2. So it says shifts. The sagas also have 4 shifts they can choose to make, no matter what has happened. The shifts are the same each chapter. Sages can choose as many of the shifts as they would like each chapter, including none or all 4, but each shift can only be done once per chapter, and each is the reverse of another. So that is the end of chapter 2. We have the idea of our orcs. Do we want to maybe lay out like what kind of like time period are we in? What kind of technology are you thinking we're working with?
Let's go with the classic Tolkien-esque sort of
the swords and armor and that kind of stuff.
Exactly, like the high fantasy. And I think the story so far would be then that we have this peaceful kingdom of Lania who's lived in peace for centuries, and now these Styrobites are attacking us. There have been like slaughters along the border, and at least one major city has been destroyed. And so they bring us together, and me as Adolphus, the self-appointed thaumaturge of the Grand Academy, and you as the maestro, the new alchemist of the Grand Academy, and they're like, help us. We don't know how to fight. We don't know what to do. And between the two of us, maybe we travel to the border, and you witness all the burned out cities and the destruction brought on by the Styrobites, and we come up with this idea of like, we're going to craft something out of this. And so out of those burned out towns and cities and the desperation and all those negative emotions, between my sorcery and your alchemy, we're able to begin creating these warriors that are going to fight for us.
I like that. That makes sense.
And the idea is that we don't want them to, however, rebel against us, so we bind them to this magical banner, which is a flag of that city that was destroyed.
This is incredibly manipulative of us, and I love it.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
we are
We're not.
telling these things created from complete destruction and sorrow and despair and saying, you have one thing left to live for, one purpose, and it is
Yep.
this. It is this thing from whence you came, the thing that all of you represented, right? Like this
Yep.
is it right here. This is your sigil, this is your
Awesome
mark.
stuff. Yep. It's awesome stuff. Cool. All right, let's go on to the next chapter if you're ready.
Yeah, chapter 3. Go ahead, Christian.
So
I
that's
love the
kind of where
title
it's
of
set
this
up.
one, by the way.
Yeah. So that's where it's set up so far. We've begun creating these things. We have the first creations of what we call orcs. They're out. We're beginning to make them, and then we have chapter 3, the slaughter of Shrike Forest. In an act of desperation, the first few orcs are sent against an overwhelming Styrovite force. The Styrovites make camp in the gloomy depths of the Shrike Forest. The orcs strike at night, hoping surprise and shock will make up for their lack of numbers, arms, and experience. So this is the trial by fire, and so maybe the king has come to us and said, like, listen, we know where the Styrovites are. We know they're coming back again with a force. We know they're in the Shrike Forest. We need to see what you guys are doing. But we need
And
to
of
see
course, we're going to object and say, like,
well,
we need more time. We need more,
we need more
we're
time.
not ready.
Yeah, the classic mad scientist thing. And they're like, no,
Yes.
we need them now.
We
so
have no time.
Send them out. So we're sending the first orcs out.
Okay.
And so here's how it goes. Pick any 2 scores to serve as a stratagem, but those scores can never be used together as a stratagem again. So that is tricky.
Okay. Well, here's the thing, Christian. This is our first, this is our make or break. Yeah. I think we have to use our 2 that are numbered. So just for the audience that's listening.
Totally agree. Yeah.
We've got +1 to numbers and +3 to loyalty. And then we have 0 brute, 0 clever at the moment. So I say numbers and loyalty together.
Totally. That was exactly what I was going to say too. But then the funny thing is we can never use that loyalty of those numbers again.
I know, bro.
Previous vows. You have to combine them in different ways. So that's crazy. So, all right. So we roll. So we have, that gives us a +4. That's a 4 because we have 3 loyalty and 1 numbers. And we have to roll 1d6 plus stratagem. And on a total of 5 or higher, we're going to win. So I'm going to say, bro, why don't you roll?
We win, right? Or do we want to make it
roll the 1d6? I mean, we do automatically win, but just because I think let me just look. There in
this case, to keep it interesting, Christian,
the score can go up or down depending on what you do. So I think you roll to see what happens. Yeah.
So now we've got to decide this. So we will for sure succeed.
Yep.
If we get an 8, we get so it says at the bottom here, if any score reaches -8, -4, 4, or 8 this chapter, list 1 new custom the orcs have begun that sets them apart from the Lanians. Oh, I guess this is not necessarily this isn't the role that we're doing. Never mind. I read that wrong.
No, it is. I thought, is that the score for the stratagem and the role, or is that the score for the stratagem together? I think it is the role.
I think it's just represented by the score of the skill, I think.
So we get one. So we get one then because we have a 4.
But it's any okay. But it says any score though. I don't think it's a combination of scores, right? Because this, in the beginning, it says pick any 2 scores to serve as a stratagem. And then it says if any score reaches. So I think like if our loyalty reached 4, then we would get something. But I don't think we get to add the numbers and the loyalty.
So that comes from the stuff we do later on when we do the warps.
Correct.
Understood. Okay. Correct. All right. So all right. So we roll just to see what happens either way.
Do you want to make it slightly interesting and allow us to have a chance of failure? If we roll a 1, we would fail if we combine brute and loyalty or clever and loyalty.
I don't, because I think it's important for us to play the game as written.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and roll.
Yep.
I rolled a 5. So 5 plus our 4 is 9.
So we get a 9. So on a victory, the orc ambush is terrifying and unexpected. Styrovite soldiers break and flee in terror. The orcs run them down, and the creeks of the Shrike Forest run red with Styrovite blood. Pick 3 warps. So this is where the warps can come in, so we can pick 3 of these.
So we got to narrate how this happens a little bit, though, right? Yep. So as we mentioned, the king, he comes to us and he's like, "Hey, we found a group of them. We need to hit them now while we can. And of course, we're objecting. We're not ready. We need more time. We don't have enough numbers, and we can't, we can't guarantee they're going to obey our commands and this and that, right? But nonetheless, the king, he presses on and says, we have to do this. If we miss this opportunity, then we might not get another one. So I think we're combining the numbers and the loyalty. So I think maybe we give like a rousing, like motivational kind of call to arms before they storm the forest, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe so I picture like the alchemist is standing amongst these orcs, and you just smell like burnt flesh and earth and smoke and that kind of stuff. And he's standing before these beings that are these monstrous looking things, right? Comprised of all different elements and pieces of this and pieces of that. And he kind of stands before them, and maybe your guy's holding the banner behind him.
That's exactly like very Warhammer 40K, like standing behind him, holding the banner, like.
Yeah. This is the thing that you all have left. They took everything from you, and in this moment, in this forest, you have an opportunity to reclaim what they took from you, what they stole from you. And then, and then from there, we just say, go ahead and get it done.
And then we have, so these are the options, and they just fall upon these people in the nighttime.
Yeah, bro, we got a 9. We fucking obliterated them.
Yeah, we obliterated them. And we have three warps. So we have orcs can fly into a battle rage, +1 brute. Orcs have natural weapons. Describe them, +1 brute. Orcs are hard to kill, +1 numbers. Orcs can march without tiring and survival of scraps and forage that would make a Lanian sick, +1 numbers. And orcs can see by night, +1 clever. So I have some ideas. I think see by night would be cool. And I also think either battle rage or natural weapons.
I like the idea. I like the idea of the battle rage, especially with us giving this like inspiring speech, right?
Yep.
I love that. I think the by night is perfect too. Maybe we mentioned how they were made from like the remnants of like burned buildings and shit like that. Maybe when they go into this battle rage, whatever their eyes are, whether it's earth or wood or flesh, like glows that like red of like the burning of their village.
Yeah.
Like embers, cool. Right? Stoking to life, and they can see in dark when that happens.
I love that.
So I love those two. So we got one more.
So we did battle rage, and we did fly, and we did see by night. So that's +1 brute. Okay. I mean, we could go and give them natural weapons too, and have +2 brute.
Yeah, I mean, their natural weapons could be literally what they are made of, right? Like flaming bits of, smoldering bits of wood or metal, but like, flesh that's been torn asunder, and they have like these, bone shrapnel and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I like that. So if we go with the natural weapons, plus they can battle rage, plus they can see by night. So now our orcs get +2 brute and +1 clever total.
And then we also have shifts. And we can do as many, so the council may do any or all of these at the end of each chapter, but each only one per chapter. And they're also the opposites. So we can make the orcs larger, make the orcs smaller, indoctrinate the orcs, educate the orcs. So we could really, if we wanted to, by making them bigger, we would get to +1 brute -1 numbers. We could actually have +3 to brute and a 0 on numbers for the orcs if we wanted to. And then make the orcs smaller as -1 brute +1 numbers. So it's the opposite. And what were you going to say?
If we indoctrinate the orcs, that gets our loyalty to 4. And if any score reaches a 4 this chapter, we have to list a custom that sets them apart.
Yep, and I have a good idea for a custom, and I want to do
Hell yeah, dude.
So let's do that.
It's gonna, of course, it starts from the first battle, right? Like it has to. Yep. They've created a custom here, so. Yep.
So I think I'm comfortable with also making them bigger. So we have +3 brute and 0. So that would give us, because we have indoctrinating them gives us +1 loyalty, -1 clever. So we lose the clever we gained for the night vision. So we're at 0, and then we lose the numbers we originally got. So we'll have 0 numbers, +4 loyalty, +3 brute. So we've got some real badass orcs now after this first battle. The idea so we give them one belief. So write one belief we give them after the indoctrination. What do you think for that?
Right. One belief you give them.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that motivated them to attack in the Shrike Forest was that this is the way that they take back what was taken from them. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we give them hope.
Vengeance.
Maybe these beings that are made from despair and death and destruction and hatred, maybe we give them hope.
Or maybe we do the classical evil villain thing, or although we're doing this with the best of intentions, and we just give them like vengeance.
Oh, yeah, right. Do we want to
Because
double down or do we want to
because
make them
we
multi-dimensional?
also have a belief, we also have a custom that we're giving them that differs from the Lanians. And my idea for that custom is them taking battle trophies like heads,
I do
which would make them the opposite of the peaceful Lanians. And now we're
I
making
do
these like
like the battle trophies.
bloodthirsty. We're making these bloodthirsty super soldiers.
Okay, here's the thing. It's
Yeah.
definitely going to be vengeance, okay? The
Okay.
belief has to be vengeance, and it's going to be that they will not be satisfied until they take back everything, right? Until they exact revenge on everyone that has taken everything from them. Until the very last breath leaves the last of the what is it, the Steniites or
Until all the
Styrovites? Sorry.
Styrovites are dead.
Yeah. Wow. Also, this is going to be a really rough dissertation for me because I'm going to make this huge fucking problem. And if they do win and beat all the Styrobites, now what?
Now you got
Oh,
these
shit.
horribly vengeful super soldiers.
I also like the idea, Christian, for flavor purposes, right? We
Yeah.
lost numbers, but they gained a substantial amount of brute this chapter. So I like the idea of some of their dead, they're able to like take that
Yes.
vengeance from them and carry that onto
Yeah.
themselves. So maybe they just smolder a little bit more
Or
intensely,
they just
or
like, and they bulk up, right? Because they're
yeah,
bigger now.
yeah,
So
they
the fallen,
take
they just got
pieces of
absorbed
that.
into like, they got absorbed into the ones who lived. Yeah.
Yes, they take physical pieces from the remnants of those that fell in this battle, but they also take on this that emotional, the anger, the rage, the hatred, and they become even more possessed of that stuff.
Dude, we have some beasts now.
We got some
Okay.
badass orcs, bro.
We do. This is going to go totally wrong. All right. So that's chapter 3. That is the slaughter of the Shrike Forest. So now we're going to chapter 4, which you can read. You'll be the narrator there.
Sounds good. Dude, honestly, we might even be able to go like chapter 5. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I'll go chapter 5. I don't want to finish it because I don't want to give away the ending to people.
Same.
But yeah.
Okay. So chapter 4 reads The Rescue of Sinoseth. Starovite cavalry carries off the royal family of Lania. Oh, fuck, yo, the king's in trouble. The orcs have one chance to head them off at the small village of Sinoseth and rescue the royals. So this is not good, right? Like the king came and he was like, "Hey, slaughter these people, like do this." And we go back to report to him after we're successful, and oops, no king. We're all out of king, right? So while while we were busy creating like mass destruction and destroying all these people in the forest, they must have sent a small group of people or something that abducted the king. And now we found out his whereabouts, and now we have to basically get him back. So I like that.
I like it too. And it's the same thing. Pick any 2 scores to serve as a stratagem, but those scores can never be used together as a stratagem again. And you roll 1d6 plus the stratagem on a total of 5 or higher, we win.
I think for this one, right, we outgunned them this last fight, but because we were so focused and hell-bent on that destruction and death, they definitely out-clevered us, right? Like they stole the fucking king from under our feet. So I think we need to use clever for this round as one of our scores, and I know that that's a 0.
Yep.
So what other one should we use? Brute, do you think, or what should we use here?
So I was thinking, I mean, loyalty.
So let's reiterate our scores real quick. So
we have numbers which are 0.
Yep, numbers went down to 0.
Loyalty, which is a 4. We have psychotically loyal orcs. We have
perfect. What could go wrong?
+3 of brute. So we have psychotically loyal monsters, basically, and we have a 0 clever. So they're kind of dumb. So I like the idea of using clever because this is like heading them off at the pass is a stratagem. That's not something we're necessarily good at, but we're using it. I would argue for loyal and clever because this is the king.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, bro. The fucking banner of the people is the object that unites them, and
Yep.
he is the person that the banner represents. So it only makes
Correct.
sense for loyalty and clever.
So I'm going to roll for that. So that's a +4 for our roll. I rolled a 4, so we get an 8. So we're
Oh,
above a
yeah, let's
4,
go.
so we win. Orcs are in the area, surround the Staravites. After a tense standoff, the royals are rescued unharmed. From now on, the Council of Sages has the backing of the crown no matter what they do. Wow, that's scary. Pick 3
How
warps.
about how about we cut him off, right?
Yep.
And we use our clever, right? We come up with an agreement. If you let them go unharmed, like we will let you live and return to your families. And then naturally they do, and then naturally we slaughter all of them. Like
I love
which
it.
is an indication of like our lack of clever and the core of
That's
us being rage and destruction and vengeance, right?
I absolutely love that, and it's also the beginning of like we should see that as a sign of something going wrong. But they're
Yes.
like, nah, this is cool. Look at these great guys we have.
It's cool. The king said we're good. We have in a mere 2 chapters of fighting created something that is arguably way worse than the people that were destroying everything we had before.
We literally should have just had a militia to fight these styrovites and learn how to do it
Shit,
on our
dude.
own. But we took the shortcut.
I
And I
love it.
already see a warp I love, but why don't you read? Because we won, so we can pick 3 warps. So why don't you pick some of these? Look, read the warps, Troy.
Yep.
And
So the
I see
warps
2
change
that I
each
love, actually.
chapter.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, the
Go.
warps change each chapter, which is pretty cool. So orcs are taught the sorcery needed to create more orcs. So
Oh,
that
nice.
is for sure the one of them that we're going with,
I love
because
that one.
what
That's
it
exactly the
does,
one I wanted. Yeah.
it gives +2 numbers and -1 loyalty. So this is they didn't betray us, right? Like we came to an agreement, but then they exercised their own free will and took matters
Yep.
into their own hands. So I like how that represents a descent of loyalty.
And we're also like, we did this with not a lot of orcs because our numbers were 0. And the king is like, these guys are great. We need more. So the bright idea we have is we'll give them the means to reproduce on their own with the sorcery they need.
Oh, dude, now instead of taking their own, they still can take their own that die, but now in this battle, they take the slaughter of those people that were betrayed and hopeless and make more orcs from those motherfuckers.
Yup. Yup. And that
Yes.
leads me to the other one, which is at the bottom. Orcs begin to crave the flesh of their enemies, +1 brute.
Naturally, bro. Naturally.
Yup. So
And
that
we
gives
get
us a
one
4
more,
brute.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. The others are all around procreating, which is
Mm-hmm.
an interesting thing to add to this. How do we want to approach that, Christian?
Because I'm looking at them.
Because
I like the fast growth. I think that's the one that ties the best into the stuff we've already chosen. Because the other three choices are orcs have children with each other. At least some grow into adult warriors at fast speed. That's a bonus to numbers. Orcs can have children with each other. At least some grow and mature at the same speed as Lanians. That gives us more brutes. And orcs and Lanians can have half orc children, which gives us a +1 loyalty. I like the second one because if they're using sorcery, them growing warriors very fast to boost to the numbers is just a part of that sorcery.
yeah, I like that. It's a byproduct of it. It's
Yeah.
also I like it because it kind of plays on like fire, right? It's destructive
Yep.
and it grows
And it
at
begins spreading.
incremental. It grows incredibly
Yep.
fast. So I like what that embodies. 4 could be real dark, right? Like
I
think
want to
about
go with that one. I want to go with the flesh of the enemies. Absolutely.
no.
Yeah.
4 is orcs and Lanians can have half orc
Oh, yeah,
children,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that
Yeah,
can be
no, I'm
real
sorry.
dark. Like if
Yeah.
that's something that came from this battle, right? Think of the implications of that. Like, oh
Yeah,
boy,
that is some. Yeah,
right?
oh boy. I actually don't feel it fits thematically with what we're doing though so far.
No, it doesn't. I like
Yeah,
what we've got. I like what we got.
yeah.
So we're going with 1, which is their taught sorcery to create more. They begin to crave the flesh of their enemies, and they can have children with each other. At least some grow into adult warriors at an incredibly fast speed, and that gives us +1 more to numbers. So
Mm-hmm.
now,
And so far we have hit a 4. on Brute. So we are going to
Correct.
have a new custom there, and we have some shifts if we want to do them.
Are we ever educating them or no?
I think
You're
we
like,
kind of have. I think we kind of have to
do
teach them
we? Come
sorcery.
on now.
I
You
do. I
don't
like.
have an education. You're just indoctrinated into the academy. You're
But
so fucking
here's why
old.
I like it though,
You're
because
tenured.
it's chipping away at their loyalty, right?
I personally like the idea of them just being a massive fucking force that we then go, oh shit, we didn't realize we did all this. My bad.
I like the idea of like, oh, we're going to teach them sorcery. They're getting clever, and
Okay.
every bit they get clever, they get less loyal.
You know what? It does make sense for this particular chapter too, because they did use some cunning, right? Like
Yes, they did.
betrayal. They learned
Yep.
how to fucking betray. So,
Yep.
and lie. They learned how to lie, bro.
And we're like, this is fine.
This is
This
fine.
is fine.
We just take the war paint and start painting clown masks on ourselves. This is fine. Okay, so now we got +1 to clever and -1 to loyalty.
So our orcs, as they stand right now, have +3 numbers. So they've like just we had 0 numbers going into this, so they have just become like this, like they've just expanded. They're +2 loyalty. We've lost half the loyalty we had going into this battle. They're +4 brute. They become even more dangerous, and they're clever, +1 clever. They've become smarter and learned they can betray people. They've also begun craving the flesh of their enemies, and they get a new custom after head taking, which I think is probably like feeding on the dead.
Yeah, especially if they've grown accustomed to the flesh, right?
Yep.
So they straight up some eating people going on.
Yeah, we got head taking cannibals who have the sorcery to reproduce. Yeah, let's definitely do one more, man.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
Okay. So this is called the Siege of Worm Hill. Trapped in the ancient stone fortress of Worm Hill, the orc army must withstand a siege through a winter of storms and a summer of famine. Oof. Returning from whence they came. In the labyrinth of abandoned tunnels beneath the fortress, they wage grim and bloody fights against Styrovite sappers and feral ghouls alike. The sages prepare reinforcements and hidden camps. So again, we got to pick 2 scores, add them together, and on a total of 8 or higher, we're victorious. So I think numbers is out. We're fighting in cramped tunnels, so I don't think our numbers are going to help us here. And in fact, they probably hurt us because we're besieged, right, by plague and winter. So definitely not numbers.
We haven't we've used brute a lot, but brute is our best score. We kind of have to use that, I think.
No, I was going to say we haven't used brute at all yet.
Oh, we haven't? Oh, we haven't. No, you're right. So we can use brute and clever, maybe?
Yeah, brute and clever sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that. And we got to use it's 1d6 plus stratagem. This time we need to roll an 8 or higher, so the stakes are higher.
Brute and clever, right?
So that'll give us a +5. So it's 1d6 plus 5.
All right, let's see what we got.
Roll it.
I rolled a 6, so we get it.
Yeah. On a victory, the defensive Wormhill gives all Lanians a glint of hope. In autumn, orc reinforcements catch the besieging Styrovites by surprise and inflict great casualties before they can flee. Pick 3 warps. Some of these are good too, man.
So let's think about let's think about real quick how we did this. How were we successful, right? So we were sieged. Winter was brutal, right? We definitely ran out of supplies, right?
Yep.
So these orcs are already eating the Lanians. I think we used brute and clever to succeed. Yeah. So we're eating the Styrovites. Are they eating each other? Are they eating? They're cannibalizing their own.
That's great. Yep.
So those that fall to like famine and get sick and shit like that, right? Because it says we're plagued by famine as well. Yep. Like those get eaten and devoured by the others.
The weak get eaten and the strong get stronger.
Did we just make capitalism?
We did.
We just created late stage capitalism.
Dude, look at the warps. We get warps, to choose 3 of them, but look at some of them. Yeah.
All right, let's see. So the first one says all new orcs are created knowing how to fight and fight well. One animal finds a common understanding with orcs. The orcs use them as beasts of burden and dogs of war. That's kind of cool too.
That is very cool.
The orcs begin to
I
forge.
love this one. Yeah.
The orcs begin to forge vicious weapons of their own design. That's also pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. Orcs fall in love with fire, using it as a weapon or terror and sabotage. Of terror and sabotage. And then the last one is the council works with gifted orcs to develop a system of battle magic for their use. Okay, so number 5 sounds pretty dope.
I 5 is absolutely, I totally agree. I love the idea of them beginning to make their own weapons.
Yeah, even apart from us, maybe like without our knowledge, right?
Just completely, because they were trapped and away from us because they were in this fortress and they had to start designing their own weapons. And maybe that included like counter mining with the sappers trying to get under the walls and like, digging and stuff like that. And like, just, like not even just like vicious stuff, but just very clever things.
Yeah. And then maybe for our third one is all new orcs are created knowing how to fight and fight well. Yeah, because I feel like that represents like adaptation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're evolving. Like now they're not just created from despair and rage and anger and war, but that has taught them something, right? Yep. It's like now they have instincts. Okay. So that's going to give us +2 to brute and +2 to clever.
Dude, we have a +6 brute and a +3 clever.
Shit, dude.
We have some nasty orcs.
I could see in this, so I think we'll stop here, right, for now, because we don't want to play through all of it. We don't want to ruin it for everybody. But I could definitely see with this system where if you lose a battle, particularly a battle like early on, it could have some catastrophic, long-standing consequences, right? Like you get behind the 8 ball a little, and now it's going to be so much harder to win every subsequent battle,
Mm-hmm. And just going forward a little bit, I don't want to give away the ending, but you probably can see it coming. The next one is starting to actually like invade Styrovia, and then the Lanians joining the orcs and invading Styrovia, and then from there it kind of goes the way you would expect with orc creation stories.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a really good game, and there are bonus chapters too, where you can add other things if you wanted to kind of extend the story. But you can see how this creates that origin story of the orcs and how they, we started with like these great intentions to make these things to fight and defend our country, and all those decisions we made forged these like killing machines,
which are probably going to be a giant fucking problem for everybody later.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
What do they say? Yeah. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And that's classic. The sorcerers of the council reached too far.
Shit. They delved too deep and too greedily.
So that is Dawn of the Orcs.
This also is something that, like, from a flavor text standpoint, could have some replayability too. Like, because it's got a very simple mechanic system, and because it allows for just very, very open world building and game design, like we could play this again and we could say, hey, this is going to be more of a futuristic setting. Or we could say, hey,
science fiction thing now.
This happens underwater. Like,
and maybe it's just because I'm thinking of it recently because there was just recently a really good Humble Bundle for Warhammer 40K. But like this has those themes of like that grim dark, dark fantasy, definitely like stuff of the decisions. I mean, we wound up with head-taking cannibals who worship fire. It's really, really cool. That was a lot of fun. So again, we're not going to give away the game, but I think we've been playing probably an hour. So the average game would be 90 minutes to 2 hours. So that's right in par with what is being written in the book about how it goes. Hopefully we've demonstrated how to play. Check it out. Back to Kickstarter. Get yourself something cool. Support independent RPG creators because those are the people
support creativity.
Support creativity. Support that because those are the people who are the future of our hobby, and they deserve your support.
And again, just to shout out here, the artwork in here is very beautiful and it's very nostalgic. It's very reminiscent of the RPGs of yesteryear. It's beautiful. And I don't have the physical copy with me, but Christian is holding on to it. And he said it really is pretty sweet. It's all made from recycled materials. So like, go us, right? Even the orcs, listen, for as bad as they are, they do recycle. They recycle the bodies of their enemies.
The bodies of their victims.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, bitches.
That's right. So yeah, check it out. Dawn of the Orcs, back it. Thank you, Lime. Thank you, Plasmaphage. This is an awesome game. Hopefully,
and when does it go live, Christian? Is it the 17th? I think they said
the 19th of November. So
is it the 19th of November?
You'll know if you're listening to this because you'll probably find it on the Kickstarter page. So check it out. Check us out if you want. We're the DMs After Dark. You can find us anywhere on social media. You can find our YouTube channel. Everywhere you go, we are DMs After Dark. Check it out. We play all sorts of role-playing games, and except for a certain one that has an ampersand, all the other ones we play. So this is Christian.
And Troy. Thank you guys for listening, and thanks for watching.
Take care, guys.
Have a great night.